The most important factor of performance is psychological safety. And psychological safety is essentially the ability for your team to share ideas without the threat of being punished or ridiculed for them. And that it leads to more innovation, it leads to trust, it leads to people feeling like they're contributing in a way, and it helps you show up for work in a more productive way.
Welcome to Behind the Screens, conversations with background screening pros. I'm Les Rosen, your host, and I'm excited to have you here. On this podcast, we chat with the people who know the background screening world inside and out. Executives, industry experts, legal pros, and more. We dive into their personal stories and insights to give you a real look at what's happening behind the scenes. Whether you work in the screening industry or are just curious, Behind the Screens bring you the real, unfiltered conversations from the people who make it all happen. Stick around for stories you won't hear anywhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting, action-packed, can't miss, must-hear, essential episode of Behind the Screens. It's essential because we have a special guest. We have Miss Bianca Lager as in the beer. You're going to hear all about her, but just by way of introduction, for someone who probably needs no introduction, she is a person who was the president of social media, which was the first, as I understand it, she'll tell us more about it, social media firm that started the whole social media craze and has a ton of business qualifications in all sorts of areas that she lends to the background screening industry to everyone's great advantage. So it is my pleasure, absolutely, to welcome to the show, Bianca Lager. Bianca, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Les. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure is all mine. It's an honor, and thank you for the warm introduction. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad. And first of all, where are we interviewing you from? Because it doesn't look like a corporate office.
Absolutely not. I don't do those anymore. I haven't in a very long time, as a matter of fact, but I am in sunny San Diego in my home office where I come and go as I please, and mostly not as I please because I'm shuffling after my 3-year-old and my 6-year-old all day long.
And they are boys.
They're boys. They're 2 boys, Henry and George. They like to call themselves the Lager brothers. They're a team. They're a duo, and they're awesome. So that's my real job.
So King Henry and King George.
That's right. That's right.
You named them after English kings, and there's a lot more English kings. So
that's how it worked out, essentially.
Oh, that is a riot. And little known fact, San Diego has the best weather in the United States.
Yeah, is it little known? I mean, it's pretty solid. Yeah, I love it here. So I grew up here. I lived in Santa Barbara for 20 years, and then we just moved back here 2 years ago. Santa Barbara definitely gives San Diego a run for its money, that's for sure. But it's great to be around my family and everything again. Oddly enough, there's actually, you guys are all gonna laugh at this, but I have more seasons here than I did in Santa Barbara. Yeah. So I'm like, it's like 10 degrees difference in the summer and winter. Like, that's something, you know? It wasn't much in Santa Barbara. It was pretty much like 72 all year round. So I'm enjoying the winters in San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much have lived in 2 of the nicest places in California and probably the world. I mean, Santa Barbara is just glorious. And San Diego is just my favorite place. So
come down, hang out. Well, some of you were here, and I don't know if you made it out to Sherm this year, Les, but it was here this year. And yeah, it's a great place to have a conference, that's for sure.
Oh, my God. It's great. So let's start off. What is your current role? Tell us what you currently do, what you find interesting about it, and take it away.
Yeah. So currently, I'm a consultant. And what does that mean, right? Everybody's like, everybody's a consultant and nobody's a consultant. But I've sort of fallen into this work. So while I was running social intelligence, I started being asked to do a lot of public speaking about leadership. And I was asked to create LinkedIn learning courses. And essentially, I became a LinkedIn learning instructor. So I have several online courses. If you go to my LinkedIn, you could find them. And then I did a lot of public speaking with social intelligence as well, kind of talking about social media screening and stuff like that. But then, I was asked to do a variety of different things. So it all stemmed from there when I was Not like I needed something else to do in between having babies and running that company. But anyway, and COVID, not for nothing. But anyway, once we exited, I basically was like, I'm going to continue doing this stuff. And so what I do now, I like to sum it up as a strategic growth coach. But for the most part,
Wait, hold on there. A strategic growth coach.
coach, that's right.
Coach. Okay.
Strategic growth coach is how I'm summing it up lately. A lot of the people that I work with are sales and marketing leaders. And then generally, I work with COOs or CEOs. For the most part, there's sort of universal difficulties in the specific work that I do. So a lot of those are in what people can relate to, especially when you're running, mid-sized businesses, is trying to make sure we have the right priorities, trying to have clear roadmaps to where our strategic goals are, and then staying the course, making sure that we have a team dynamic that is healthy, is full of trust and really strong. And that's actually sounds really easy, but it's harder to do. So I help folks, essentially build their business roadmaps, make sure they have the right data and systems in place. Especially when it comes to marketing, you really can't invest in the right marketing programs unless you know what's working really well. Double down on that. And it takes a lot of work to just make sure make adjustments in your day-to-day stuff, that you're collecting the right data, that you're understanding where your customers come from, you're understanding where they're going. And so in the background screening world, I partner with iCubed advisors, Jason, Kevin, Andy, Nick, and the boys. Shout outs to you.
Wait, so Jason Morris,
Jason Morris,
Nick,
Kevin Bachman,
Kevin Bachman.
Nick Fishman, Andy Hellman.
All right.
Yes. Let's give them due credit.
All right. So, and thank God they have you, because otherwise that's a pretty motley crew.
Amen, Les. Amen. I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's my lot in life, I guess. I had a bunch of boys and I'm working with a bunch of boys now. But yeah, for background screening, it's great. This crew that we've kind of put together at this point, they do a lot of different work with like M&A and different kind of advisoring, just with operations. Andy does global, like there's all sorts of aspects of the background screening industry in particular. So I kind of have my foot in two worlds most of the time, which is a lot of support and work with my background screening clients through iCubed. And then I do workshops, again, online courses and public speaking through my separate company. It's called Blink Solutions. But that's essentially, it's a mouthful, but that's what I do now.
I like it as a strategic growth coach. SGC.
I know, an SGC. That's exactly right.
Put that in your business card.
Exactly. I'm an SGC. You know what that means?
I mean, I'm going to skip around on the question list just to stump you.
Yeah.
Normally, I don't ask this till 3 or 4 questions, but with all the skill sets that you have, and we're going to go back to that in a moment when we talk about your path to where you got to now, and all your abilities that crisscross, any industry, what keeps you so interested, I know, in the background screening field? Because your skills are transferable anywhere, across any type of service.
Yeah.
But you spend a lot of time with us background screeners. Why would you do that?
It's a good question. It's a good question. No, I think for the most part, of course, I got asked to become the leader of social intelligence, right? Didn't know lick about background screening. I've been a business manager sort of by trade, and then I did some corporate sales and marketing jobs to kind of learn a little bit more about larger companies, how they operate and things like that. Got my MBA. And so when I joined social intelligence, it was all Greek to me, 100%. I didn't know how the sausage was made, nor was I interested, frankly, but it was interesting during social intelligence. I was definitely, I always say, I was out there just door to door, knocking on doors, talking about social media screening before it became more colloquial like it is now. We all in the background screen industry understand that it's a part of a background check, or, it's available, a lot more. But before, I was trying to shout from the rooftops, and anybody listening, you remember me pounding on your door, trying to tell you about it. That's what I was doing.
I mean, you were a pioneer. I mean, the very definition of pioneer is a person with arrows in their back. You were the first.
Well, certainly social intelligence is the first. I came on even 4 years after the company was created, and it still hadn't, really started taking off. When we got more competitors, it was better. It definitely elevated the conversation, more demand for it, all that good stuff.
Right.
Back to the journey with background screening, I think that for me, one of the core things that I always think about when I think about background screening is, well, for one, I mean, it was even like that then. I was building this tech platform. We did AI. We did all sorts of cool stuff. So I was in background screening. They were our clients, but I was always an outsider a little bit, and kind of doing something very different than the core traditional background screening CRA does. And that was really interesting because I got to work with so many different CRAs and end users. We had two different revenue channels. And so I got to see a really broad view of background screening. And when we were selling our product, we had to really intimately understand how it fit in with all these other products. We're competing essentially against them, right? And not necessarily competing, but you're competing for attention.
Yeah, you're competing for shelf space, basically.
Shelf space, exactly. Yeah, definitely. And so through that journey, I think the thing that I like the most about background screening is the people. Like, and it sounds really trite, but genuinely, like, there's just really down to earth, kind of salt of the earth people here that are very genuine. I mean, trust me, there's a lot of people that are not that way. But,
Well, any industry.
Let's just put it that way. But yeah, that's just the way it goes in general. You know who I'm talking about. Just kidding. Probably myself. But anyway, there's like a welcomeness, I think, to it and an openness to be a part of this industry. It's definitely something that people really feel like they belong to and identify with once you're kind of really working within it, because it's a very nuanced set of knowledge that you learn. And so I learned it too, and here I am. But, I really just enjoy some of the companies I get to work with. I love the journey, especially that the CRAs are on, in terms of just kind of gaining market share, trying to set yourself up with the right messaging and approaching clients and stuff. So a lot of the stage that the majority of CRAs are in now, this just really speaks to me as like a business manager and somebody who loves to work in both strategy, but kind of get your hands dirty and do the executionary work as well.
Well, that's great, because I'm curious, because obviously I'm familiar with your career. I'm just looking at your LinkedIn and saying, God, this person could do anything, anywhere for anybody, and she's with us. So that's quite a
jack of all trades, master of none. That's what I told you. That's what I tell everyone. I'm like, here I am. I don't know. I know a little bit about a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this off air. The way I describe myself is my knowledge of everything is a mile wide, but about an inch deep. So
right.
It's all right. So we kind of covered this. You talked about the fact you came on social intelligence as president 4 years after it was formed. But what was your path to becoming a strategic growth coach?
Don't worry about memorizing that one. It's really, whatever. I don't know. I'm a business consultant. My path there, the path there was really stemmed from the speaking gigs and the online courses that I created. I think.
And that was before social intelligence? Or?
During social intelligence.
Oh, okay.
It was during social intelligence. I worked for a company called lynda.com in, I think it was like 2011.
Oh, yeah, and they were bought by LinkedIn.
They were
right.
bought by LinkedIn, which is bought by Microsoft.
Yeah.
So they were based in Santa Barbara in Carpinteria. And so they were my coworkers, right? The production of it all and the e-learning platform. And essentially, if you don't know what it is, it's essentially what LinkedIn Learning is now. So all those online videos teach you about professional development and different kind of skills across business and across all sorts of different things. And so one of the producers kind of saw what I was doing in social intelligence and saw just like kind of content I was putting on LinkedIn or whatever and said, hey, have you ever thought about, would you be interested in filming an online course? And if you pitch us like 5 ideas of the things that we'll kind of flesh it out and do it and whatever. And so, we worked it out, and it's an incredible experience getting to go to the studio and getting all dolled up, and the process of creating those online courses and working with the producer to really make content that is useful for folks that we all have. They're so busy. And so it started from there and really kind of taking a lens of how people need different skills in the workplace. And then, of course, just my leadership journey with social intelligence. I mean, it's a journey, and I think that the thing that I loved so much about social intelligence is the team that we had, in the way that we related to each other and the way that we executed our work. We were essentially a bootstrapped business. And so you're trying to do a lot without a lot of resources. And I always said, there's a million things to do and you have to choose one at a time, right? And the very hardest thing to do is to keep your eye on the ball. and to know when it's time to pivot and not just do it because you're reacting to other things that are going on. And so that all kind of led up to the translation of the work that I created now. And I'm coming out with a couple new workshops and courses called the Inbox Zero system, where essentially it's the roadmap, like strategy and the practice that we developed at Social Intelligence. I have created a resource and a couple, like a PDF and a workbook, a spreadsheet workbook that helps companies and their teams go through this exercise of prioritizing, making sure you have the right level of effort, making sure you understand the timeline of what this project's going to take, and just valuing the opportunity cost of choosing which thing to tackle, how to tackle it, and again, to reassess and make sure that your priorities are sticking and they're the right priority. So
And you were in the right place at the right time because you went to school at UC Santa Barbara.
I did my undergrad at UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And then I did my MBA at Pepperdine. So I always say, like, oh my God, poor me. I was commuting between Santa Barbara and Malibu. Like, it was terrible.
So you've been going south all your life, Santa Barbara, then Malibu, then San Diego.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I don't get out much. It's like these awful places that I've had to journey through. It's just been
Oh
tough.
my God.
It's been tough.
I would try and feel bad for you, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, don't bother. I would say, listen, you people that live in the snow, like, I'm too weak for that. I am a weakling. I don't know how people do it. I bow down to you all who actually have a real winter. I don't know what that's like.
Have you ever been to the snow?
Sure. I've snowboarded. I've, drank hot cocoa in the lounge, like with the best of them,
I don't believe in snow. It's cold, it's wet, it's slippery.
I'm with you. Like, why?
Yeah, why? I mean, for all you hardy souls who live in the rest of the country, here's to you, but not me.
It ain't me, babe. That's right. No, thank you.
So you went, you see Santa Barbara, you went to social intelligence, and then at some point you transitioned to business coach, which you've been doing ever since.
I have been doing it ever since. And yeah, through my work with iCubed Advisors with Jason, Kevin, Nick, and Andy, we do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of podcasts and things like that. And so it's been super fun as well to just kind of try to continue to kind of think of new resources for people in this industry, outside of it too, for sure. But of course, like, the group that I work with, iCubed Advisors, were an advisory firm for background screening. And so I think it's really great to be able to think through very niche problems in this industry and address not just, like I said, that strategic planning and prioritization, but like putting that extra understanding of this industry and making sure you're putting it into context, the pesky things like the FCRA, all sorts of issues that come up while you're trying to, run your business.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add an editorial comment. I try to keep out of it. But as Kevin Buckman likes to point out, everyone basically says the same thing, which doesn't really get you very far. It's kind of like World War I, when you're in trench warfare. You take a yard, you give up a yard. I mean, if you really want to make a difference, you got to do something differently. But
you would get me on my soapbox about that, Les. I mean, Kevin and I can have a whole, not just a podcast, we could probably have a whole all day long conversation, and don't threaten either Kevin or I with a microphone.
I will not. I will not throw you. I will not throw you in the briar patch, honestly. So basically, with all this fabulous experience you've done, the things you've done, who have been some of your mentors or some of the influencers that have shaped what you've done or are doing?
There's three key people, I think, that whenever I'm thinking about my career, my really life, and just kind of how it's gone, there's three major people that have shaped it. One, her name was Lorraine, and she was the branch manager when I worked at Wells Fargo Bank when I was in college, in early college, like 19. And
that was Isla Vista, or
no. So I lived briefly before I went to Santa Barbara. I lived briefly right outside of San Diego in a little town called Menifee. And if you know, you know. But anyway, I went to community college there for 2 years. And so I lived there, and I started working at Wells Fargo Bank, and it was a small team, and we were inside a grocery store, like one of those banks. And she was a person that, if I had to pinpoint, she was a great leader. And I think that the really great quality that she had that I learned is having difficult conversations.
Right.
She was able to have, and sometimes with me, because I was 19 and I was an idiot. And so, like, it was some tough conversations she had with me. very direct person, but never nasty, and always supportive and always willing to find a way to get through things. And just if there was tension, we confronted it. And she wasn't afraid to do so. And she wasn't afraid to make sure that we all knew what we were doing and why we were doing it, and to teach us all sorts of things. And so I think that, like, I can't be more grateful for that kind of early, influence and understanding what that meant to be a leader and to have those tough conversations that you have to have with folks.
Well, that's such a blessing to have someone with such leadership abilities early in your career. So that's number one. One
Yes,
down.
one. Yeah,
Two to
one down.
go.
To Maryland. When I lived in Santa Barbara, I worked for the Santa Barbara Film Festival for a couple years, and Brad Pitt touched me on my left arm, just so everybody knows. We met a lot of celebrities and stuff, and I literally called my mom on my cell phone. I'm like, I'm standing next to Brad Pitt and putting you on speaker. It was so exciting. 2006, Angelina was there too. Anyway. So anyway, Marilyn was someone I shared an office with. She was one of my superiors as well. And, just an incredibly supportive person that wasn't like overbearing and micromanaging with it. She had done my job before, but let me kind of find my own way, and always was there to give me nice supportive advice. And then for years after, years and years, decade probably, would always be a go-to person, always willing to like write a letter of reference, support me in any way, connect me with the next person. And she just never really asked for anything in return, and just always was happy to help in a very like low key way. And, countless thanks to her. She's just a really supportive champion of mine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now number three.
Number three, you may know him. I think you've met him. Max Drucker. Did you ever meet Max?
No. Who?
Max Drucker is the founder of Social Intelligence.
Oh, okay. No, I know the name, but I don't think we ever crossed paths.
Yeah, probably not. In the early days when they launched in 2010, he was kind of on the circuit, so to speak, and going to PBSA and all that kind of stuff. And then kind of let his second in command lead the way a little bit more. But Max was CEO of Social Intelligence before I was, and he is the person who asked me to come take over. And essentially what was happening with the company at the time is that Social Intelligence was basically serving three industries. It was serving the background screening industry, serving the government, and then serving insurance, right?
Right.
When there's a claim online and you're faking it, it was that kind of stuff.
And private investigators and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so investors, of course, at some point are like, what are you doing? Pick a lane, pick a lane. Right. And so very much the lane was, we don't want to do the security clearances, government stuff, sell it off to a government contractor. You can imagine a lot of red tape, a lot of difficulty with that kind of stuff. And his background was in the insurance industry. So he's like, there was a lot of opportunity there. He's like, I can't let go of this employment background screening idea. And he felt like he was too early to market, but that there was going to be some potential there. And so the decision essentially that they made is to spin off the company, bring in a new leader who happened to be, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fresh out of business school, and was eager to kind of go out there and see what I could do, just boss people around as I love to do. So I knew him, we lived in Santa Barbara, and I knew him essentially socially. I knew his girlfriend at the time. But anyway, I always say we were at the Tee-Off in Santa Barbara. If you ever get a chance to go to Santa Barbara, go to the Tee-Off. It's this amazing, it's a steakhouse that like their specialty is prime rib, and they make it this delicious prime rib soup. And so I was like, prime rib soup halfway to my mouth, and he's like, anyway, I got it. He's prattling on about something. I didn't care for the guy either.
When at the mention of prime rib, I gotta stop you. It's called kiosk.
Tee-Off, like it's like a golf, like you're teeing off the Tee-Off.
Oh, Tee-Off. Okay, Tee-Off. And it's in Goleta, or it's in
It's in Santa Barbara proper.
Oh, Santa Barbara. Okay, Santa Barbara. Okay, Tee-Off.
The Tee-Off.
All right, I'll be in Santa Barbara this year, so I'm gonna tee off.
Go to
on
the
prime
Tee-Off.
rib.
It's great. It's like, it's old school. It's kind of like there's not many like strip malls in Santa Barbara, but it's in one. And
is it on State Street? Or?
It's actually is on State Street. It's on Upper State Street. So it's north up there. It's off the beaten path.
Okay.
Yeah, it's off the tourist path. Great local spot. But anyway, yeah, delicious. And I'm not even that big of a prime rib gal myself. But anyway, it's so good. I didn't care even much for Max Drucker at the time. And anyway, he's prattling on. He's asking me, do you want to come run my company? And so like, as my story goes, I'm like, huh? Like prime rib soup.
So should I chew on that, or should I chew on the prime rib?
Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry. What are we talking about? I wasn't even listening to you.
Right. And another Sauv Blanc, please. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. That's my drink too. Last time you know, it's like you were there.
I do my
Yeah.
research.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good for you. No, he became such a mentor to me. I mean, in terms of strategic thinking and in terms of just understanding how to play chess and not checkers when you're running a business and how to think in the long term. And he would, try to beat into my head all the time, get out of the weeds, stay out of the weeds, stay out of the weeds. And
Yeah.
that's such a hard thing to do. And it's a lot of the things that I try to help business leaders do now because it is so easy to get caught into the day-to-day little traps and fires that come on, and trying to really move your company forward takes a lot of getting out of that mentality, and it's not easy to do. It's not something that happens overnight. And so yeah, we'd have these Monday afternoon meetings where we worked in a building downtown Santa Barbara, right on State Street, in the middle of like tourist State Street, Santa Barbara. It's called the Balboa Building. It's right over Paseo Nuevo Mall. And you don't really think about it if you're there. But then you kind of look up and you're like, oh, it is kind of a building. Almost looks like a residential building, but it's like this old school bunch of offices. And so anyway, his office is at the top floor facing the ocean and the wharf. And we're probably, I don't know, we're maybe 3/4 of a mile, maybe as the crow flies, like from there. And so it's this gorgeous balcony overlooking gorgeous Santa Barbara and the ocean. And it's great. And it just became the backdrop to like these really difficult conversations. I mean, we were going through acquisition conversations with Sterling, and we're going through conversations with all sorts of, negotiating with Goldman Sachs and like doing all of these really complex things that at the time I felt nervous about, of course, and intimidated by in a lot of ways, but it was just really grounding. And he was one of the most supportive people, not just in business, but in my life in general. And I always say it changed my life. I mean, it really did change everything that I was able to do and accomplish. And I'm just really grateful for his friendship and his business mentorship, just in terms of how to deal with like everything from employee matters to, these kind of high stakes negotiations where there's a lot at play. And, the ocean in the background wasn't a bad thing either.
The interesting thing about our interview so far is that there is so much to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack, yeah.
Yeah, and there's just things we gloss over. But one takeaway point is like the importance of great leaders and mentors early in your career. 'Cause you were blessed with that. You just had some great people, and it just got you just on this course at jet speed towards what you're doing now. It's fantastic.
It's incredible. And I think that kind of relationship can continue on throughout, and of course, give back and to help other folks. And that was really my whole goal. And I still have relationships with really all of my employees at Social Intelligence. They
That's
still
great.
check in with me and coaching them through really difficult situations. One of them had a really difficult situation just last week. And I'm so glad we have that connection because it's incredibly important. And I think the background screen industry, my experience has been anyway, is that there's a lot of really incredible relationships like that people tend to grow and to keep throughout your career. I mean, you see folks changing, working at different jobs. What do you think? That's from these relationships. That's
Right,
from,
yeah.
getting to know folks and being there for people in real ways and not just in this like kind of what can you do for me lately kind of way. So
I mean, that's a great take. I mean, some people say, well, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But you've taken it a step a lot more sophisticated. It's not only who you know, but how well you know them and your relationship with them.
yeah, incredibly so. I mean, that is like one of the core belief systems of mine is that I just sum it up as like work doesn't have to suck because
It doesn't have to.
it doesn't have to, right? We spend a lot of time together, and it's incredibly important for humans, for society to feel good about that amount of time that you're working, and not necessarily like joy all the time, but to feel like you're accomplishing something, you're contributing. And a lot of the ways that's accomplished is when you have a lot of trust in the people that you work with and your coworkers and the relationships that you have at work. I think your relationships that you have at work are so, so important, and
Yeah.
they don't have to suck.
They don't have to suck. Ladies and gentlemen, advice from Bianca Lager. Work doesn't have to suck.
That's right.
And life does not need to suck.
It does not need to. It does, because it translates over, right? You have a crappy day at work when you have somebody who's just being a jerk to you. You're going to go home and be a jerk. Like, you're going to carry that with you. And I think hey, we could really get meta
Yeah.
about it, but it's at the help of society. But I think it actually is really informative of, and I mean, really getting into it here, Les. I watched my father kind of go through a ton of crappy jobs where people treated him terribly for a
Hmm.
long time. And it's one of the keynote speeches that I give. And I give this talk about leadership and trust and how to kind of develop better relationships with your employees and keep them engaged. And one of the motivations for me, and I really kind of outline this, is watching my dad suffer and the consequences that came because of that. And it's just so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. And I've been so lucky and fortunate to have really great people and to have really great experiences. That dichotomy to me just doesn't make sense. And I really just encourage, especially people who are in executive positions, leadership positions, that you've been bestowed really a power over people that can be really uncomfortable sometimes if you use it in an uncomfortable, nasty way.
Yeah.
And so you just don't have to do that, you know?
There's just so much there, yeah. And there's all these studies that say people don't quit jobs; they quit toxic managers. But anyway, I mean, that we
That's a
could
whole
spend,
thing, right?
yeah, we spend hours on leadership. But let's circle back to you. Usually, people have so many answers to this, but
Yeah.
just top of mind, what's an early lesson you learned in your career that has stuck with you that you'd want to share? That I mean, I know there's probably 50 of them, but what's the first one that comes to mind? Kaboom!
The one that comes to mind is what I had mentioned it briefly, and I'll go through it a little bit more. But Lorraine, who taught me how to have difficult conversations, right? And this is essential. Let me say it clear. It is an essential skill, although it's an essential life skill to have. It's an essential business goal, 100%. But it translates a lot, of course, in leadership. The big scenario when you have to fire somebody, or when you have to let go of somebody, or you have to make an employee change. That is a very difficult conversation to have. And it can be done in a way that you can ensure everyone's dignity in the
Yeah.
conversation. I
Although
promise you it
sometimes
can.
conversations occur because people shied away from difficult conversations early on that could have
For
changed the
too
behavior.
long.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the problem. Or, well, that's a lot of that can be problems like that. That's a really
Yeah.
classic example of things that you think you're having conversations, but you're not necessarily getting to the root of it or getting to the place where there's open communication, there's trust, there's transparency in a genuine, true, and authentic way. A lot of people do a lot of posturing, a lot of lip service, or a lot of like, I read this in a book and this is how I think I'm supposed to say it. And they kind of dance
Mm.
around ideas, but it's a skill set that you really need to hone and develop. And even if you think you've been doing this X many years, you know what you're doing, I promise you, you can always reinvest in looking at new ways to have conversations. I always say listening is active listening. You hear about how to actively listen and eye contact and this and that, but a lot of active listening is also the changes that are made after
Right.
that, the actions that you take. That's listening. And so, anyway, again, I'll get on my high horse last
Well,
year.
no, we can go on that forever. And a lot of people don't realize that having a difficult conversation doesn't mean you have to be difficult. You can have difficult conversations that are constructive and actually they're helpful to people. The
100%.
truth is helpful.
And if you're not nasty about it and you're still able to be direct, but to ensure everybody's dignity, because that's all anybody needs and wants is dignity, respect
Yeah.
as well. But dignity is a core thing that I think you have to keep in mind. It's such a fundamental thing that I think we kind of forget about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's easy to forget about it. But, I've had to, of course, like any other leader, fire people who were doing my company wrong or, doing things that weren't great. But
Yeah.
you still owe that human, I think, the dignity of just a conversation where everybody can just walk away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just be able to move on with their lives in productive ways.
I'll share. I mean, for my lawyer days, the cases or the matters that ended up going to lawsuits,
Oh, yeah.
common denominator is that at the core of it, someone felt that they were belittled as a person, that their dignity, and that's what drives it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And yep. I mean, for sure. And it happens so much in employment, I think, because there's a cat and mouse game that tends to happen sometimes where a leader kind of thinks they're giving up too much power, or that they're letting things get out of control and they need to kind of command and this and that, or vice versa, right? And so you can really dismiss it as like touchy feely or hurt feelings. But when you look at it through a lens of just like, we need to be efficient and productive here, and this is not productive, you're
Yeah,
going to
right.
go off into a lawsuit and spend, give less all your money for what,
Yeah, no, and absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. So, what was in looking back at all this, you've done so much, and you're still in full throttle. I mean, you're still going at 110
tired.
degrees. Yeah, you got more energy than I remember ever having. But right,
It's
what
winding
what
down,
was
let me tell you.
what comes to mind as a moment that brings a smile to your face, or a proud moment about either the background score in the industry, or your professional life? I mean, obviously in your personal life, that's a lot of things are there, but in your
Yeah.
professional life,
Yeah.
what's something that kind of really brings a smile to your face?
Certainly my team at Social Intelligence. I mean, that's just the immediate thing that comes to mind. I think not just in the relationships that I built there and the friendships, because during the time at Social Intelligence, I was going through a lot personally. My father had cancer and was passing
Oh,
away.
sorry.
I had two babies. There was these very profound things that were incredibly transformational in my life, right? And it's kind of, full circle for sure of like the conversations I was able to have, the openness, the candor, and also the insistence on making sure that we had our priorities straight. We knew what we were doing and going after. We were all on the same page around what our priorities were. We were on the same page about how often we reassessed them, with how often we could sort of pivot win. And you have to be agile. You're a small company, things change, something gets thrown at you. And being able to, maneuver through those things, we not always liked each other. It wasn't always pretty, but we got through it and we trusted each other. And I think that kind of trust is so rare. And it's such a gift that it was, because I finally got to live out that sort of, I guess, fantasy that I try to help other organizations achieve now, of being able to meet your business goals while also, enjoying it, I guess, at the time, and at least feeling fulfilled in terms of what you were accomplishing in a business sense, but also having the right people around and being able to do it together and accomplishing things as a team. I mean, again, a lot of stuff sounds trite, but it makes such a difference in people's the way they show up to work, the way that they deliver a performance. Because some of these people, Les, when I think back on like the hours that they put in, or the way that they would, cramp things out, and I'd come in on a Monday and they're like, you know what, we dove in there last night and we fixed it, we got it done. And it's like, no, but I didn't, I'm like, don't do that if you're, you know what I mean? But like, it's this commitment that you end up getting out of folks, and a loyalty that it is very strong. And so definitely the proudest thing. Definitely.
That's marvelous. You had a team working on all cylinders,
Yeah.
despite the fact that you and everyone else you're always going through stuff, and you have
Always, yeah.
more stuff than a lot of people have at that time. But that's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That is something to be proud of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. And I'm still incredibly proud of each of them as individuals. And of course, like, the way that they supported me, I'm grateful for the experience.
That's marvelous.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So let's pivot a little bit. We have a couple of pivots left.
Yeah.
One pivot is obviously, I think you mentioned PBSA. I do like to ask our guests, how's PBSA influenced your career, and what have you done, and what's it done for you, and what say you about that?
Well, I say so much, sometimes too much. But no, I think PBSA, what I was talking about earlier about just like, what is any of this stuff in background screening? I remember going to like Pam sessions and being like, what language is she talking in? Like, what is happening right now? And so I would relentlessly go to as many sessions as possible so that I could understand the vernacular of my partners, of my clients, and understand a lot about the other products that I was fighting for shelf space against. So I think that like education in general, being able to understand the nuance of all these things in a way that I never have. It gave me a platform. I was able to do many public speaking engagements there. All my knocking on doors about social media, it gave me a very big, one big door that I was able to get this very long-winded conversation out and be challenged and hear the questions from a live audience so that I can understand what some people's difficulties or challenges were with the product that we had. And then I would say, I was really thinking about PBSA and just if there's one real thing that it gave me and might bring me to tears, but it was my friendship with Montserrat Miller. She was such a gift to me, and we got paired with one of these speaking engagements once because they're like, Bianca, you can't just be talking about social media. You need a lawyer with you, and I was like,
Right.
fair enough, fair enough. I'm like, that's fine. I don't need to be, that's fine. Someone reel me in. And anyway, we met literally right before we were going to give a presentation together. We talked on the phone and so many great moments. And like I said, I had gone through so much during that time of social intelligence, and she became such a friend. And, she passed a few years ago from cancer, and I miss her dearly. And so I'm eternally grateful for PBSA for that friendship as well.
And I would just add, anyone who Montserrat misses her dearly, and she was, absolutely wonderful. And so,
Absolutely wonderful.
on so many levels, she was wonderful as a person, as a lawyer, as everything. So, yeah. So, anyway, well, and you're still involved with PBSA? You still?
They still let me show up less, so you know what I mean. Unless they kick me out this year, I'll be there. I think y'all are coming to our neck of the woods here this year. So Anaheim is. I don't have to get on a plane. I am loving that.
That's right. You can drive up to the 5 and sit in traffic for a while, and eventually get there.
Yeah, I actually don't think it works, to be honest with you, but
Yeah, that's right. You get the camp penalty. You go, God, we're not even close.
not even close. I know exactly. Very familiar with that drive, though. So
And your firm, you and the boys put on the social hour on Sunday, so I'll give you a little free advertisement. Run up the tab, have all you want, and then send the bill to Jason and Nick and Kevin.
That's right. It's my favorite thing to do is put it on someone else's tab.
Right. Make it a double. What the heck?
Exactly. Get loose.
And order a burger while you're at it.
Yeah. Get loose. Get
Yeah,
fit.
they'll pay.
Kevin's gonna get so mad at you, Les.
So let's pivot to life beyond screening. We spent so much time on so many things, each of which we could probably spend several hours on, but all together, right? Time goes faster. You're having fun. What do you do beyond screening? You mentioned the two boys.
The two boys.
What are your interests, your hobbies? What do you guys do for fun? When you're not thinking all these great thoughts about so many things.
So many things. I know. It's even more. It's funny. I was thinking about this. It's like, what else do I say about myself? And I had a conversation with a group of friends of mine. We were talking about and I'm looking at my phone right now because I'm going to read my message because we're talking about our Instagram algorithms and how it kind of, in social media, your algorithm kind of just mirrors who you are. And so let me list it off. And I think this sums me up well. So my algo imbalance is autism mom stuff. Both of my boys are autistic, and I'm a very proud autism mom and learning all about the ins and outs of neurodivergency, food, recipes, things like that, how to make cool food, which truly I don't have a lot of time for, but it's interesting. Animals, I love Net Geo and kind of wild animal life stuff, and so do my kids. Football, the NFL only. Do not come to me with your college football stuff. It ain't me, babe.
No minor leagues. Okay. All right.
No, I don't deal with the minor leagues. No, thank you. Professionals around here, please. I am a fantasy football champion. So let me tell you.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been doing it for years. I'm a huge nerd. Me and my husband, we go to Comic-Con every year. We're big fantasy novel and book people. And so now we're bringing our kids to Comic-Con. They came with us this year. It's super fun.
I have to ask, that begs the question.
Yeah.
Do you dress up?
Absolutely.
Oh,
This
my God.
past year-
Okay. Give me some of your favorite costumes.
Yes. This past year we did my son. It was the first time we took the boys. And trust me, that was taking two autistic 6 to 3-year-olds to a Comic-Con is the most overstimulating environment you could possibly imagine. We took the trolley down there, which is the little public transportation. It was a thrill for them. But
The Tijuana trolley. That's great.
yeah, we told them we were going to a superhero party. So my oldest Henry insisted that we all be Spider-Man because that's what we dressed up as for Halloween last year. So I was Ghost Spider, my husband was Spin, and they were Spideys. And we literally had these kids on our neck walking around the hall and took awesome pictures, the backdrop. So that's definitely got to be one of my favorites. And I think it always will because it was our first time taking them. But my dress up as Daenerys Targaryen once from Game of Thrones, and that was super fun as well.
Wow. Did you have to dye the hair and all that?
I
Or
wear a wig. I wear a wig. I wear a big
wear a
long
wig.
wig. And then my husband was Jon Snow, and he had it, and this was pre, release of Jon Snow Rode Dragons, and so he had an inflatable dragon. So we were like Jon Snow and Daenerys together. It was awesome.
that those photos would be great blackmail material, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's what we do. We're big old nerds around here, and otherwise we're just like in the sun. My son did surf camp this year, so he loves it.
Wow.
We go swimming, and we just try to, hang out and have a good time.
I'm not even sure you can get into Comic Con anymore unless you book a year in advance. It used to be you can just walk right in.
No, you cannot. Yeah, it's in fact in 2 weeks here is then they do the lottery. And so like essentially if you're a returning person,
Yeah.
there's like a special registry. But yeah, you have to register. They do it in early October. Register
Yeah.
and buy your tickets. And it's a whole thing. It is a whole thing.
If you weren't in early, it's hard to get in now.
It's hard to get in now. Yeah. So my husband and my sister-in-law like will text each other during the registration, like who's in? And sometimes we don't get in. And so one of us will get tickets. So the person like buys the tickets for everyone because you're like on the clock. You have like 5 minutes to make your choice. And it's intense. It's intense.
God, you're like a longer Comic Con queen.
Comic-Con queen.
Unbelievable.
That's my act. Forget the SGC. It's the Comic-Con queen.
That's your new Queen of the Dragons.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you. I am the mother of dragons.
The mother of dragons.
They are dragons. That is for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. You do a lot.
I need a nap.
Amazing.
I need a nap.
Yeah, you need a nap. All right. That's right. When the kids nap, you can nap, right?
That's what they say, but that ain't true.
There's never. All right. So, fun fact. Tell us. You may have already revealed it, but is there something else about yourself that people may not know, unrelated to background screening, that people can harass you about unmercifully when they see you at the next PBSA meeting?
Well, there's not much that embarrasses me, so I dare you to try. I have pretty thick skin, so there isn't a whole lot that you'd ever be able to throw in my face. But yeah, I mean, come at me with your Comic-Con suggestions, actually, for what my next cosplaying, approach will be. And certainly if you are a fantasy novel and you love like Harry Potter and all this stuff that I love, by all means, let's talk about it. Like, I think I need to start a PBSA, like, subcommittee or whatever of like fantasy nerds unite. So come to
All right. Well, you haven't done She-Hulk yet.
No. True.
That would take or Jessica Jones. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's some options here. There's some, some options
Or
here.
the new Superman had that's not her name, Hawk Lady, the Hawk Woman.
Oh, I don't know that universe. I don't
Yeah,
universe
the DC. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
initially grew up in DC.
My
and I went
husband's
to
a
Marvel.
DC guy, and I'm kind of
Yeah.
like, man.
Yeah, I have one of those sad stories, right? I started collecting comic books in the 60s and went to school. I came home one day and my parents had cleaned out the garage and they probably threw out Spider-Man #1.
Oh my God, that's awful. That's awful. I'm so glad I'm a hoarder. That would never happen in my house.
It actually the first time it was ever published, I wrote a letter to the editor to the Justice League of America or something, and I was complaining that Element Lad was not used appropriately, and so
Good for
and it
you.
got published. Yeah, I was 6 years old.
Hey, I love that. Good for you. Stand up for us.
Yeah, I was
you
on
know
that.
what I mean?
I was on that bandwagon. Element Lad could have saved the world, but
Yeah, really. Well, gosh, man, you're just like shaking your fist at all those comics in there. Those would be something these days.
Well, you've done and are doing and will be doing so many interesting things that you are the perfect person to give advice to newcomers. And I define newcomers broadly as people who have been in the industry but really haven't gotten involved beyond just doing their job, or people that are just brand new verifiers who somehow think, wow, being on PBSA or doing it is way beyond my pay grade, and everything in between. So what's your advice?
Well, I certainly think that, oh my gosh, something is coming to mind right now that I didn't expect to pop in my brain. And It's I'm gonna say it, but I am so not a compliance person, and I do not know why this is coming to my mind. But one of the most useful things that I did, and I don't know if everybody does, is not read the FCRA. Actually read it, like actually read it, okay? Because I think you'll learn a thing or two. I think that is very useful. Some of you have to, but not everybody does. And I think that you don't really understand some of the nuance here unless you really appreciate and digest, what some of these words are. So I think that's one. Certainly, I think now, like, of course, PBSA, I think that's a very obvious thing to do. Now, Les's podcast, you have iCubed, you have Izzy and Melissa and
Yeah, the
Megan.
Background Screen Collective.
Background
Right,
Screen
yeah.
Collective. You have folks that are really working hard to create new and interesting ways to bring education and get to know each other in this industry. And so I think that keep your non-background screening brain with you when you join this industry is maybe the advice. Like, yes, read the FCRA, but like, this industry needs innovators and needs interesting ideas and needs, lots of perspective on new ways of doing things. The world is changing all the time. The AI of it all, it's all, new and exciting. And so, keep your non-industry brain with you and make sure that, you are digesting all the new content that is out there and the people that you can meet through these platforms, because I think, we need new minds like you. That's what I would say.
Well, Bianca, before I ask you like the final question, you have so much to offer, and we've just haven't scratched the surface. I mean, of the surface, just scratched. Well,
I said, Les, I call
how
that.
can people find you? Where is Bianca Lager? Where can
Yeah.
they get hold of you if they want to continue the conversation, or talk to you, or get to know you, or find or get resources you have?
Please be my friend. Please. The best place is LinkedIn. That's the number one easiest place. Just search for me, Bianca Lager. And you can find me probably through the iCubed page if you're familiar with iCubed. But just search for me, connect me, throw me an invite for sure. I love connecting with people online. Certainly, follow the content if you're interested. But I love having conversations. Throw me a DM. Like, let's chat. I talk with people in the industry all day on LinkedIn. Like, we're constantly exchanging messages, figuring out times to meet up and stuff like that. And that's really where it's going to be the hub of everything. I kind of have a balance of content on there between background industry and then kind of, non-industry or kind of more general business advice and things like that. And so that's what you'll hear me, insufferably talking about over and over. I'm an insufferable know-it-all. And if you know that Harry Potter reference, then good for you. But that is the number one place where we can be friends. And please do. I love friends.
Well, and they can also take advantage of just your pre-recorded courses on all sorts of things, business and social media and
Yeah.
sorts of things.
I say, hey, I still get royalties, so just put it on mute in the background. Let her rip.
Let it rip, folks. You heard it here. I mean, all contributions gratefully accepted, so that's fine.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. That's my GoFundMe, so thank you.
Well, this has been a great conversation. We're almost at the hour mark, but
Yeah.
let me end this the way I normally do and give you the last word. Is there anything I didn't ask you? Is there anything you want to add? Go for it. The show is yours.
A shameless plug, I suppose, for two things is, yeah, like I mentioned, I mentioned it a lot, but any of the iCubed webinars or podcasts, like we work really hard on those. So please do find us there. And then for myself, I'm coming out with a new workshop. It's going to be available in January. It is for any strategic leaders that want to get better at running their team, running their own business and their own career in a more, organized, faster, in a more systemized way. So it's called the Inbox Zero system. And we hope to get a bunch of leaders together. I know one of the questions in this industry I get asked a lot is that kind of peer-to-peer conversation. And sometimes I think folks can feel really competitive and really like close to the chest on some stuff. So trying to, create a space where you don't have to give away the secrets, but you're able to come and say, hey, how do you solve this problem? What are you doing? We're hoping with the
I hate to
workshops.
break this. Sometimes
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate to break
yeah.
people. but there are no secrets.
That's
There-
right.
there's
Let me
no
tell
one
you a
has
secret. There's
no one has anything unique. No one has a unique issue. Everything is known to everybody, and so there's
Right.
nothing to hold on to.
There's nothing to hold on
There
to
really
at
isn't.
all. Don't hold back. We know your pricing. It's not a secret, and it's not the thing that's making you successful.
Yeah.
That attitude or that whatever close to the chestnut is not keeping, it's not helping. So
And even I hate to say, but even your client list is not that big of a deal because
Not that big of a deal.
everybody is someone's client. I mean,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. And you can only do so much with that information. And so, I mean, it's semi-useful in some ways, but no, yes, stop taking those things so seriously, guys.
Yeah, I think you're right because that's just the start of it. The fact that there's so much more to it. But with everything that we have said, what would be your parting words of wisdom? And go ahead, take 2 or 3 hours. Or, sorry, 2 or 3 minutes.
I was going to say, no problem. No problem. Listen, I'm going to get I'm on this soapbox right now of leaders who are people's bosses, who are in charge of people's livelihoods, or who have influence over people's career. Whether your job title is a C-suite executive or not, but especially if your job title is one, you need to think carefully about how your presence is perceived and felt in your organization. And how that doesn't just affect the person that you're speaking to or trying to control or trying to be defensive about, whatever it is. There's a lot of dynamic that can come into play. And I think a lot of more seasoned leaders, so to speak, leaders, I use that term loosely, can feel like they know everything about everything. And they leadership training, please. Oh, that's so, like I've been doing this X amount of years. I guarantee you're probably the number one person that needs to take some time to reflect and to remember, that everybody's just people here, and that your words and your actions and your, the audience that you're in front of, whether you're calling somebody out in a public meeting or whether you're doing it privately, there are always better ways to do that. And if you should be always interested in pursuing avenues to make sure work doesn't suck. And I guess that's the best way to end it, Les.
I think that's great. There's so many truisms you see on LinkedIn and people who post, and the one I see a lot, but really, it just strikes home. That old saying, I can't remember who said it. People don't remember what you do; they remember how you make them feel. That sort of thing.
And it's a real thing. It's not like emotion, feelings, like whatever you can call it. Emotional intelligence. It certainly is emotional intelligence, right? I mean, it goes into this. But I think that it's not productive. It's just not productive. Like, plain and simple, when you are... Okay, here we go. Well, it's taking longer than 2 or 3 minutes. It's gonna happen. Project Aristotle. Google it, look it up. Google did a research project. This was probably in 2012, but it's called Project Aristotle. And essentially, they tried to say, okay, we're a huge organization. We have all these different teams. Some of them perform better than others. What are the factors that make teams more high performing than others? And long story short, the most important factor of performance is psychological safety. And psychological safety is essentially the ability for your team to share ideas without the threat of being punished or ridiculed for them. And that it leads to more innovation, it leads to trust, it leads to people feeling like they're contributing in a way, and it helps you show up for work in a more productive way. That's kind of the short of it. I can go off about that, but I will say that that's the point, is that Google's proven it. Don't take my word for it. It makes better performing teams, and I promise you it'll make it a better experience for everybody, and better experiences for everybody at work, make better experiences for everybody at home. There you go, guys.
Folks,
That's
you heard it
the
here.
life advice. You heard it here.
Take a look, Google or go to your favorite AI, look at Project Aristotle.
That's right.
And I always have to remember that, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, spa. So Project Aristotle. Right. And you will learn and hear, and it will be confirmed that our guest today, Bianca Lager, is absolutely correct. Bianca, thank you for sharing so much.
Oh, wow. Oh, I've talked your ear off. I'm so embarrassed. Thank you, Les, for not grabbing this mic out of me. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, this has been another great episode of Behind the Screens. It has been a pleasure They have Bianca Lager with us. Stay tuned. I would be remiss. I forgot to mention at the top of the hour that our sponsor is Barry Nixon, the Pre-Employment Directory. And stay tuned the next week. And again, let me thank our special guest who has contributed so much information. And please look her up on LinkedIn because you would get, I mean, the amount of resources you have available and the insights and the wisdom are just phenomenal across a whole scale of business-related activities. So remember the name, Bianca Lager, because we will hear from her more in the future. And say hello to her at the PBSA conference. All right. Bianca, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Pleasure.
Appreciate it. All right, that was yet another wonderful conversation with a background screening pro. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, if you got a moment, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It really helps get the word out. For more info or to catch up on past episodes, or to make suggestions or to suggest possible future guests, head over to our website. Once again, this is your host, Les Rosen, and it's been a pleasure to bring you another episode. See you on the next episode. Thanks.